Senator Chris Melifunction Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, GDOE team, for coming out for us this morning. I'm just very confused by this testimony. And, you know, I can't really fault my colleague, Senator Parkinson, for asking questions about the, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, the general pay plan raises, because this testimony from the acting superintendent really just muddies this whole issue. We're not here to discuss the general pay plan pay raises, but the basis of this testimony is basically don't give us $30 million because we want to give our employees a raise, and that's not what we're here to discuss. So I don't appreciate using the specter of these pay raises and whether or not the Guam Department of Education employees are going to get them as a way to really, I mean, are you serious? You're telling us you don't want $30 million? Because we have heard testimony from the Guam Department of Education just right across the hall in the public hearing room here at the Guam Congress Hall, testimony wherein the acting superintendent, Judy Wampat, had clearly stated on the record, and I wish I could find the tapes, that the federal funds we have, the $103.8 million, will not be enough. I heard it right over there in the public hearing room. I believe it was the GW roundtable hearing where she said that the money would not be enough to do all the capital improvement projects. So what are we doing here? We are trying to give you money. If you need it in a lockbox, don't spend it all at once. I mean, you can't out of one side of your mouth come to the legislature and talk about the state of the schools and how we need to correct the course that we're on, and then out of the other side of your mouth say, oh, no, we don't need $30 million because we're so concerned about giving pay raises. We're going to address the pay raises. We have a special session that was called by the governor to do that. And we're just really here to give you $30 million. What's the problem? What's the problem? And I'll just ask the question. I'm going to keep it as basic as my colleague, Senator Parkinson. Could you use the $30 million or not? Anyone? Could you use the $30 million or not? Let's just stay in our bubble here. We're discussing this measure, which is to provide $30 million in excess revenues to the Guam Department of Education for facilities and maintenance repair. We have not got to the conversation about the GPP. I'm sorry to keep bringing it up, but you know, really we started off on the wrong foot here with this testimony is what I'm saying. So could you use the $30 million or not? Could our school children benefit from having an extra $30 million in the bank? Because again, I'm going to go back to testimony from the acting superintendent that happened right across the hall. In this testimony, she said, if we're going to get these raises, we need to be fully funded. We need to get every single dollar in the budget request that we sent down to the legislature. And then we're going to need a supplemental budget. And the $22 million for the power. So I'm just asking you guys, trust us, we're going to get to the raises. Nobody here wants to see any of the hardworking employees at GDOE not get a raise. We committed to address that. Right now, we're just trying to give you money that you have said yourselves you need. And I understand the politics at play here, and I don't want you guys to be caught in the crossfire. And let's just be honest, you were hesitant to come down here precisely because you did not want to be caught in the crossfire. But I don't care how many shots I have to take to support the children of Guam and the public school system. We should all be on the same page. If you're going to come down here and tell us you need money for this, you need money for that, you need money for the other things, and then we turn around and grant that request and give it to you when we have the governor in the State of the Island address saying it's not her problem, it's our problem, use the excess revenues, and then we turn around and do that, and now you guys are saying, oh, Munga, no, we don't want it, we're good, because we have this mountain of federal cash that we might have a problem spending, that you guys have said yourselves is not going to be enough to fund. I've seen the HFF, it's a binder like this thick, full of all kinds of projects that need to be done, right, Phil? Is the binder this thick or not? Yeah, it's pretty, it's a thick binder. Yeah, it is thick. We don't need, yeah, I know. We're good. It's a thick, it's a lot of projects. And again, I'm just going to go back to what the acting superintendent had told us
Hold
right
on.
over here is that they're,
Committee of the Whole is back in order. So Senator Barnett,
thank you, ma'am.
you're recognized.
Thank you so much. So let me just rephrase the question here. That's a very simple, basic question. Could our school system and our school children, our school facilities, our school maintenance benefit from an extra $30 million in the bank, American, U.S. monies? Yes or no?
We'll have a superintendent, acting superintendent, answer that. Speaker Wampat?
Hi, Speaker. Good morning. And Acting Soup, I don't know if you heard what I had talked about, the testimony you provided previously to the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and the Arts. If you'd like me to reiterate what you had said over in the public hearing room?
Oh, no, I heard that part.
Okay.
But
So again, the question is, would our school system, our school children, our school facilities benefit from an extra $30 million in the bank? Yes or no?
as I stated in my testimony, I said that any help, of course, yes, absolutely, we can use. But what I was making reference to was that when I came to the legislature and we were looking at the available ARP monies, and that was even before we started to reprogram them and redirect them to ESF and CG, was that the amount was not as sufficient. But as we kept scrubbing the list, then we were able to bring that dollar amount up to be able now to meet what the Army Corps of Engineers had given an estimated amount to do work, the CIP projects with the 35 schools. And then we gave you a listing of what those are. So those are big projects like roofing, plumbing, restrooms, doors, electrical, and so forth. And that was like to the tune that Mr. Cooper Smith mentioned, that actually went to the
Ma'am,
AG's
I'm
office.
sorry, Acting Soup. His name is Franklin Cooper Nurse. Dispensa. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We want to make sure we swore in the right person.
Kung ganay dispensa de. Lo, si Franklin po sa bayagang Franklin then. So anyway, so so the numbers are fluid, of course, because as we start to put out the request, then we would list it as a requisition form, and that's why the amount when I said earlier was not going to be sufficient at the time. Remember when I came? That was my first week when I came to the legislature, and I was actually working with the amount that was already established by the two previous deputies. And coming in, I set new priorities, and the new priorities was the facilities. So that meant that I needed to get more money, and I kept asking my management team to continue to move more of the projects over to ESF to free up as much as we can from ARP, with the exception of a 20% holdback that has to be strictly for curriculum or learning loss. So that's why you got that amount that was given by Franklin. So when you look at that dollar amount then, and you look at the projection given to us by the Army Corps of Engineers, then we were able to establish then that we would have sufficient, ARP monies to be able to work on those specific CIPs at the schools.
Ma'am, is that a yes
And
or a no?
Well, when I said, I did say that absolutely, of course we can. And who in their right mind would ever want to turn money down?
That's what
Tell
I'm
me.
wondering. That's why I'm confused by the testimony, because we go almost the whole page until we get to the part that maybe might be a yes, which is, can we benefit from more money for CIP? Absolutely. We can always benefit from more. But At this
Yes,
time, we are in a position to address our
right.
facilities and CIP needs through the current federal funding we have. This would in turn free up the funds in this bill, this $30 million bill, to support the pay raises. That's not what the bill is for. It's to support the
Okay, no,
facilities and the
and
maintenance.
you're right, and I understand. But also let me go back to in terms of what is it that I told you in those previous roundtable meetings that we've had, and when you had asked about why was the schools in the conditions that they're in, and that's because of previous and many years of really not providing sufficient funds for maintenance. And that's why I said that this was once in a lifetime funding that we got the ARP, that we could actually request that the monies be used. It's an allowable expense for us to use for schools. And the letter we had just prepared to send to US DOE, and I met with them as well last week, letting them know that this is what we want to do for our schools. And they were happy that this was going to be one large amount request to go in rather than piecemeal requests for different types of projects. So, and if we didn't do that, that's when I said that I would probably have to come to the legislature for a supplemental to be able to address all 35 schools. And the point I'm saying here is that I don't want to be the one to make the decision that if I didn't have enough monies, that I am going to decide which schools then will not then, be repaired, or, or like I'm going to do the roofs, the doors and everything else. And maybe I don't do the bathroom, that type of thing. But don't say that that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm saying is, yes, with the amount that we did, is to be able now then to go out and address all 35 schools with all of the CIP projects. And Mr. Phil Tovius there would be able to even give you the listing of all the different projects to be done. And that the money that we have with ARP will be then sufficient to do just that.
Thank you, ma'am. But, I have to state on the record, one of the reasons for my confusion is that you had sent me a message on Sunday. This is just, what is today? I'm sorry, there's so many sessions going on. It's Tuesday, right? So on just 48 hours ago, you sent me a text message, ma'am, and I'm just going to read it out because you didn't say off the record. To help us allow GDOE to use the money Dueñas is appropriating for facilities.
Yes,
what I am able to set aside from ARP is still limited. I can use that money to help with other areas not included in CIP, like gyms, playgrounds, sports fields, walkway coverings, exterior sewage piping, fencing, etc. The above are not part of ARP monies: roofing, walls, plumbing, doors, restrooms, electrical, AC, etc. Ma'am, and I'm here to support the schools. I'm here to fight for the schools, and I'm confused why you would tell me 2 days ago to allow you to use this money that we're trying to give you, $30 million, when you said yourself that you want to be able to set aside this money, because let's be honest, you got a bunch of CIP, but you scratch one project, you find 10 more. So I think it's irresponsible, frankly, for you to tell us that you now don't need this money and you're good with the federal funds, when again, just 2 days ago, you were singing a completely different song, ma'am.
Well, no, because what I was talking, when you have to remember facilities, I'm talking about the physical structure of the building, capital improvement projects. The ones that I listed there are other projects, yes, that we would like to also, do. And what I said was the CIP monies that we have, yes, projects would then be covered by ARP monies. Absolutely, they will be. That's what I'm saying. And of course, yes, there's so many things that we could do in the schools, and we're trying to tap, as much monies as we can to be able then to do more of that work. We've actually put aside monies to address, like I told you in our plan, the self-help plan. So some of those monies are actually set aside also then to buy supplies and materials to take out to the schools. So what I'm saying is that we're making it work, at the department. You would have never heard this before, Because if we would just come in and say, yes, give us all the money that you can give us, but you have to give us some credit here, knowing how we are financially with the government, because this is the first time that we have federal dollars to use for the plant, the fiscal plant, which are our school buildings. And when I said that at the end there, the 5 million, because I don't want to find ourselves back where we are today when we go out in this year and next year to repair all the schools, right? And they're done. And then what? No more money is coming to maintain. So that's why I'm saying we want to enter into a public-private partnership. We want to be able to do that as soon as we're done with the repairs of our schools, then allow us then to go into a public-private partnership, appropriate, at least from what we heard, is 5 million. That's the figure that was given to us, to be able now to address our 35 schools, in the same fashion that our lead schools are being maintained by a private company. But public-private is because a private company who would maintain and manage, and our guys that we have for the maintenance, so we're not going to get rid of the guys. The guys will be the ones doing also the work. That's what I'm saying. Do that after we're done preparing, we're fixing all the schools. Don't just let it go again without being repaired for years to come, because you'll be right back where we are today. That's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to be reasonable here at the same time, knowing, of course, the financial situation of the government. But I do know that this is a unique opportunity for not just, like you're saying, the lapse funds that you've identified, but also federal dollars that could be used, ARP monies that could actually be used for facilities.
Right. Yes, ma'am. I mean, this is definitely a unique time that you have, the legislature trying to throw you guys $30 million, and you're saying, we don't know. I mean, it's actually pretty crazy, in my opinion. But, I got to go back to the intent of this bill, Acting Soup, and the intent of this bill is to replace the money that was supposed to be used for capital improvement projects, but was instead being used for raises. And I just can't help but notice we're right back at this juncture where the conversation of raises is overshadowing the real conversation that we should be having about, giving you guys the tools and the funds to do what you have to do. Because I can't help but feel if you're trying to use this money for raises or whatever, or you don't want it, or you're good with the federal funds, I mean,
no,
I'm going to predict that in a year you're going to be back here saying that you're short, or that you need 20 mil for the power bill. So,
Senator, may I ask you a question? That I know that you said that it was brought up a point of information from Senator Blas about bringing up another bill. I understand that, but then clarify to us, okay? Is that you have a separate funding just for the pay raises, but you have sufficient monies as well to provide additional monies for facilities? Or is it all from one pot is what I'm trying to find out, because I have no access to that information.
Ma'am, I don't believe that we're there yet, but we are committed to addressing the issue of the pay raises in the special session that the governor called. But what I don't appreciate, with all due respect, is I don't appreciate us not being able to have an honest conversation about what this money is for without talking about the pay raises. That's a separate issue. We're trying to give you money. We're going to address the pay raises. So let's just have a real honest conversation, because I'm going to go back to everything you said at the public hearing room. I'm going to go back to the over 5 hours of testimony we got from the PTOs and the parents, the testimony that says they're not heard, the testimony that says, please, legislature, do something. I'm going to go back to the governor again, telling us use the excess revenues to help save our schools. And that's the conversation we're having right now. We're not having a conversation about, can we save the schools and give everyone a raise? That the raise conversation, who knows? We could be having that at 2 p.m. And I'm willing to have that, totally. I think all of the hardworking employees at GDOE deserve that pay increase, but we're not there yet, madam. So if we could just have an honest conversation about whether or not you need this $30 million today. That's the conversation we're having, with all due respect, ma'am.
I totally understand, but you're going to have to also understand where I'm coming from. I've been there where you're sitting right now. And normally when we make decisions about how we're going to expend the monies, is that either you're right, you either decide there's going to be one way or the other, or you somehow share the cost or what have you. I don't want to jeopardize our employees, our hardworking employees. I don't want to lose any of our employees. But at the same time, yes, I want to fix our school. And if you think that this is something that should not be discussed, together, then I leave it up to you. You are the decision makers. You would ultimately decide and vote what it is that you want to appropriate, and we're just going to have to live with it and use it. Use whatever you give us. Trust me, we're not going to spend the money, frivolously. We will spend it where they need to be spent.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, and I understand, these conversations, especially with, the nature of your testimony. I mean, we have intertwined these issues, and I'm just not even sure we can untangle them during this session to really discuss what this is about. But let me again just go back to the legislature being constantly thrown under the bus for underfunding education. Constantly. You guys were over here in the public hearing room. Oh, if you guys appropriated us enough money, or if we had enough money to do this, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. And yet here we are trying to give you money, and the only thing we're worried about is the ability to give the hardworking employees a pay raise. Anyway, my time is up. Thank you so much. And are we doing another
May I
round?
respond?
Yes, we're doing
Can I-
another round.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry,
Can I
Superintendent.
respond,
Yes.
though?
Please. Thank you.
Senator, I understand exactly where, you're coming from, because I was the former chair as well, and we struggled with monies. We passed legislation in the legislature, and that is the 14 points for adequate education. And every year, the Department of Education will send its budget down based on the 14 points. But we've never gotten, and I know that for a fact, because even when we at the legislature have never really ever given them the exact amount that they have requested for. So a lump sum is given for the department to decide then how it is to be used in the different object categories. And always personnel has taken a top priority. That's the reality. And I'm glad you're there. And I'm glad you're pushing. I'm glad you're fighting for education. And I'm hoping that with this new fiscal year, when we submit our budget, I won't be there, but when the department submits its budget, it's going to be based on the 14 points. And I hope then that you'll be able to adequately then appropriate the monies, not just for those 14 points, but also for facilities, so that then we would always have a healthy and safe environment for our children.